Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be doing an acrylic install of my full cover duck set tips that I made, and I'm going to be giving step-by-step details of my acrylic install process. Now I did just take off my previous set a few days ago, and usually when I do my removals I will clip them and shape them, but I also want to make sure that I file my nails and shape them each time before each full set. So here what I'm doing now is just taking my hand file and filing my natural nails. Okay, so now I'm using that same file and I'm pushing back my cuticles, and this step is very important. This is the area where you will experience the lifting and where the pop-offs will come from. So you want to make sure that you're pushing back those cuticles, not just in the back of the nail, but around the entire nail plate. Push those back and get those out of the way. There is a lot of natural nail oils that are around the sides and in the back by the cuticle. So push those back, especially when you're going to be doing an enhancement with any type of products, especially acrylic, but any products, gel, acrylic, well, all of it is acrylic, but powder, liquid, gel. So you want to push back the cuticles to make sure that those are not going to be in the way of the product. So this is a very important step, but when you're pushing back the cuticles, you don't want to go crazy. You don't want to hurt yourself. You do want to make sure though that you can actually see the cuticles. Make sure that you're able to see them getting out of the way. That's the best way to make sure that you're not leaving anything to chance as far as pushing back the cuticles. Okay, so now I'm loading up my e-file, and this is my carbide bit. This is the bit that I use for this part, where I'm going to be going over the cuticles and making sure I remove any of the dead skin or just anything that's going to be any moisture, anything around the nail plate. So this step is very, very important. After you've pushed back those cuticles, this is the next step that you want to do. You want to go over the cuticles with this file and make sure that you are basically cleaning up any part of the cuticle. Now, you want to not just do the back. You want to go around the entire nail plate, because after you do your acrylic, then you want to seal the acrylic, and you're going to be sealing around in that same area. So this area, the entire area around the nail, that's where you do all of your sealing. So it's very important that you do everything around the nail when you're dealing with the cuticles. So with this step, you want to make sure that you're being thorough, and you don't want to skip out on this step, even if it takes you a bit longer, because this is the step that you really want to make sure that you get everything. This is really where the lifting and the pop-offs are going to be eliminated when you do this step. So even if it takes you just a few more minutes, you want to make sure that you're doing the most thorough when it comes to this step. All of the steps for prep, you just want to do them thoroughly. Prepping is the most important part of having that foundation for any enhancement. So even if it takes you a little longer, go ahead and make sure that you're doing that prep. If you want your nails, your enhancements to stay on, you want to make sure that you're prepping them thoroughly, and make sure that you're getting all of that. Everything is coming off there. It'll be hiding in the back. So definitely want to do this part thorough, even if it takes you a few extra minutes. Okay, so now I'm going to be filing my natural nails with my 240 sanding band. And this is a mandrel that I have. And inside of the e-file, it's the mandrel with the 240 sanding bit. And this 240 is specific to natural nails. And you definitely want to make sure that you're using the right grit for your bits. The higher the grit, the softer it is. The different kind of grits that you have are going to be about what you're trying to do for the nails. So for example, the 240 that I'm using now is good for just natural nails without enhancements, good for buffing the nails during your prep. Something else like a 150 or a 180 grit I would use on an enhancement, not natural nails. You don't want to tear your natural nails up. So grits that are in the 100s, I would use those on enhancements. You have some grits in the 100s that will help you to remove gel polish from your nails. Some in the 100s help to buff the acrylic, you know. So just do your research on the grits, depending on what it is that you're trying to do. A very low number, like an 80, would be for a removal, or like something that you're doing for your acrylic that you want to really apply like pressure. So make sure that you're using the right number of bits. Remember, the higher the grit, the softer it is, the lower it is, it's going to be more sturdy. And with this step, you want to also make sure, so this is part of the prep that's buffing the nails, which is removing the natural oils, the shine, removing the shine from the natural nails. So make sure that you also get kind of as close to those sidelines as possible, and as close to the back as possible with this step. You want to make sure that you're removing the shine from the entire nail, not just the nail plate, but those side walls as well, and the back. You want to do this step thoroughly. Go over everything with just how you did with that previous step, making sure that you're removing everything. And now I'm using my e-file on my right hand, which is my dominant hand. So I'm filing with my non-dominant hand. And when I do this, I don't put my e-file in reverse or anything. I don't change any of the settings. I just hold it with my non-dominant hand, with my left hand. And whenever I do my right thumb, when I file my right thumb, that's the hardest nail for me to basically do anything with. But when I'm filing, I can't turn my hand around good enough, and holding my e-file with my left hand, I already have to hold it kind of awkward. So the right thumb is the hardest nail for me. But I don't change any of the settings. I don't put it in reverse. I don't turn it down or anything. I do everything the exact same as with my left hand that I use with my dominant hand when I was doing my prep and doing my application and everything. Everything still stays the same. I do just it is just kind of a little more awkward for me to hold my e-file. But nonetheless, you definitely want to make sure that you're still doing everything as thoroughly as possible. And I think that with any type of an enhancement that you're doing, even if you're applying press-ons, if you're just applying press-ons even with glue, I think an e-file is a good tool to invest in. I do see a lot of techs who use buffers and who use nail files, but I think that an e-file is really, really a good investment. I don't like to use nail files as part of my buffing. If I were to need to buff and not have my e-file, I would use a specific buffer. I would actually use a buffer. I wouldn't use a nail file. Nail files just seem like they're just way too harsh, just way too rough on the natural nails. But that's just me. But I definitely think that if you're going to do buffing and if you don't have an e-file, to use a buffer. But I think as any type of enhancement, I think that the e-file is definitely going to be a good investment. So yeah, all you have to do is just get into kind of your rhythm. You'll be able to do both your dominant hand, your non-dominant hand after a while. Alright, and now I'm going in and just cleaning up any of the cuticles that are sticking out from after my cuticle work, and just cleaning those up so that when I do my application, it'll look nice and pretty and it'll go and lay right on. Okay, and this is probably my most satisfying part. It's just dusting the nails off and taking a look at my prep and just making sure that you just really see how dehydrated the natural nails are. Just dusting the nails off, getting everything off and cleaning them off before you move on to your application. Get rid of all the dust. I'm spraying my nails now with regular rubbing alcohol, and cleaning the nails. This is my cleaner and my dehydrator. Sometimes I did used to use Swipe. I used to get that, but the rubbing alcohol, it works great. So that's what I use to clean and dehydrate. And I used to use those little swipe pads when I would use my swipe, but I really didn't like those. It was just too much lint just coming off of them and everything. So I just used just a paper towel, rubbing alcohol, and I don't see any of those little furries coming off. And I take a look at my prep and make sure that my nails are dehydrated as possible and cleaned off, got all the dust off, got everything off before I move on to my next step. Also, if you have dehydrator in like a nail polish bottle, if you have a separate dehydrator, it's good to do it after you've cleaned off the nails. Then you want to use that dehydrator. You would use that step then. Okay, so now I'm getting ready to apply my press-on set. I'm taking the nails off of the stand and just filing around them, cleaning them up a little bit. And I'm going over my natural nail and my press-on over again, dusting them over again and cleaning them off with the rubbing alcohol again. You want to make sure everything is dehydrated as possible. You don't want any dust to still be on the natural nails or on the press-ons. Even if you bumped your hand on anything, or if you accidentally kind of bumped your nail onto your skin, any bit of natural oils or anything we want to avoid, or any dust or anything we want to avoid. So I clean that off of my natural nail and my press-on again. And then with each nail, I put primer on before I start my acrylic application. And I just use just my regular liquid and powder. And this color that I'm using, this is like a light pink. I wanted to use this instead of clear acrylic powder because I really wanted for the press-on, I wanted you to kind of be able to see that little bit of pink underneath. So I'm using a light shade of pink for my acrylic powder, and I'm applying my press-on, and I hold it down. I hold it down for quite a bit. I'll try to count to 10, but if you want to hold it down for longer than that, there's no limit to how long you should hold it down, but hold it down until you make sure that you feel like it's secure. And you do get a little bit of acrylic coming from the sides and coming from the back sometimes. So just take your brush and dip it into your liquid, and just wherever you see some acrylic, just wipe it off with the brush. And it's also a good idea to have a standard set acrylic application when you're doing this type of a method. I think that just works better if you have a fast drying acrylic system, like a system that sets up really fast. If you do have some acrylic that comes out around the side, it might set up before you can get to it and get it off and clean it off. So these systems that are slower to set up, you can manipulate those better because they'll still be liquidy. They won't be into a solid yet, which means that if you do have to take a little bit of extra liquid to kind of wipe around the sides, or do whatever you have to do, you're still able to manipulate the acrylic because it has not set up yet. some of those acrylic systems, they will set up without you. So you want to make sure that you have a system that will work at your speed. Another thing that I like to do is, as opposed to putting primer on all of the nails at once, I like to do it each time. So primer, well, first dehydration, clean it up, make sure there's no dust, no oil, and then primer, and then the acrylic. I do that for each nail to make sure that the primer and the acrylic are going to be working together. The size of brush that I'm using is a number 8 Kalinsky acrylic brush, and I did want to just use this brush for this set, but I have found that for me, the size of the brush didn't matter too much for the application. I've used size 40s of acrylic brushes for these applications, and it doesn't make too much of a difference, because you can pick up a large bead even if you have a small brush, and you can pick up a small bead with a large brush. So I don't think the size of the brush really matters too much, because you're just putting the bead on the natural nail. So you can kind of use whichever brush will work best for you. And I'm using a little tiny bead at the bottom here where my cuticle and the enhancement meets, and just smoothing those out just to give me just that extra bit of security. The back of my press-ons are also filed underneath to add an extra bit of adhesion. When you have press-ons that are smooth on the back, you don't get them to adhere as best as they could. So etch the back of the press-on before you apply them, and getting rid of that shine and that smoothness on the back of the press-on really helps to get that adhesion and to get the acrylic and the natural nails to really bond together. This method that I use to apply my press-ons, when I'm ready to do a removal, I do have to file them off all the way because the acrylic has the press-ons on just like an acrylic set. And I have them on very secure to where they won't come off. So they'll be on until you take them off. I've had some sets that have lasted over a month and I'd have to file them off. So if you just, if you want a method where they'll be on for quite a while, this is the method that you want to use. If you want something where they won't be on for as long and where you're able to change them out, then I would use a different method. Sometimes even the glue method will make them hard for them to just come off. But I do know there's different ways to get them if you want them to pop off. There's a pop-off method that you can use if you just want your press-ons to stay just for an event, like for the whole day or just for a night. There's a different way you'd be able to use that. There's also some pop-off products that will help to get them to come off.
no beat, esquece.
So now I'm working with my non-dominant hand to do the application for my right hand. And it is kind of tricky just holding everything in your other hand. Sometimes I will kind of do everything that I need to do with my right hand and then hand the brush over to my left and go ahead and apply it that way. That's something that you can do. Or if you just want to go ahead and just try to just get everything done while using the left hand, but you'll be able to do your dominant hand. And you want to make sure when you're doing your beads that they do stay wet. So when you put your bead onto the natural nail, you can feel free to add a little bit more liquid just to keep it from setting up and to make sure that it'll still have that right consistency. So adding a little more liquid to the bead before you put the press on helps as well. Okay, so now that the application is on both hands, I am going to take my e-file and seal around the acrylic and also clean up any acrylic from the application that didn't come off with my brush. This bit that I'm using is very precise. The end of it is able to be used if you need to get any little tiny pieces. You can use the pointer of the bit, but if you want to go from the side, you can put a little more pressure to lay it down and kind of get anything from the side. So it's very, very easy on the skin, and it also takes off the acrylic, any acrylic that is left behind, and it helps to seal the nail. This step is important in helping the press-ons look as natural as possible. And I just rub my finger across to make sure that I got all of the acrylic. That way everything else can be dusted away. Alright, so now I'm cleaning up my application, just dusting everything off, getting all the dust, and spraying it clean with more rubbing alcohol and a paper towel. I'm putting more top coat on the nails. You can skip this step, but I did want to put more top coat because of the small beads of acrylic that I added on earlier. After I smoothed those down and cleaned those off, I wanted to top those, and so I topped the entire set again as well after that. After I have topped all of my nails, they go into the lamp to cure for 60 seconds. I like to do my top coat for 60 seconds just to make sure that everything is cured. And then I go over my bling with this sealer that helps to really bring out the shine in the bling. And this sealer is an air dry polish. So I apply it only to the bling and then I let that air dry. Okay, and once I give that time enough to dry, I go in with my cuticle oil to revitalize my cuticles and give them that moisture that they need now. Oil really helps to bring the set to life and just give them just that finishing product, give them that finishing look. And here's the final result. Everything is finished and I really do like the way this set came out. I really enjoyed making this set. This was one of my favorite designs. I love these nail tips. I love the fringe, the duck, the moon curve. I really did enjoy making this set, and thanks so much for watching me make it. Thank you so much for watching it with me, you guys. See you next time. Bye.